All right, thank you, everybody. Happy New Year and welcome to our first Special Facilities Committee meeting on this January 5th, 2023, Thursday afternoon. I'm going to now call the meeting to order. I know a lot of you are catching up from being out for the holidays, and I appreciate you being here. So thank you very much for taking time to be here for this meeting. And if you would, I just want to start off by taking just a moment of silence, if we could, please. Amen. And so last meeting, our joint meeting with the Recreation Committee, we introduced Romaine Hayward as our new Special Facilities Director, and she is up next on our agenda. She's going to give us a Special Facilities update. So if you would, Romaine, please do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to start off with the Dock Street Theater. And I think all of the facilities had a boost in their visitations this year. We were up about 5,000 people more than usually. We rounded out about 35,000 visitors, and that's just people coming through the day just to look at the facility and get the history of the building. Projects and events for the year. The biggest thing we did was review our lighting and sound issues with Charleston Stage and Spoleto. There's been a lot of changes over the year, and our current system is not exactly what it should be. And we got lots of ideas from them on what to do. Charleston Stage had a full calendar this year. Actually, they're doing, well, I'll talk about that next year. They had a full calendar this year. We also had Meeting Street Academy Dance Group in last year. They're also back in the building today. We had Chamber Music Charleston, and let's see. They're going to complete their schedule. Charleston Stage is going to complete their schedule 2023 with Inga Binga, Once on This Island, and it's another the Caterpillar show. Let's see, what else do we have? We were not able to squeeze in Chamber Music Charleston this year. We usually do a lot of events with them, but this year, because everybody's trying to bounce back from the pandemic, the calendar was just a little tighter than it needed to be. Spoleto had at least three performances each day during the 17-day festival, and that's usually what they do. They did squeeze in like a fourth a couple of days, and it was an extra chamber music because they were selling so well. During Mosher this year, we had to cancel one event due to Hurricane Ian, and that was Holy City Arts. They really weren't a part of Mosher, but they were using some of Mosher dates just to kind of reintroduce themselves to the area, but it wasn't able to happen because of Ian. We had a couple of Mosher events that happened right after Ian, and it was really low attendance because that day was really rainy, and I think people just didn't want to come out. Let's see, we had Harambe Dance Company also for Mosher. We had Momentum Jazz. They had a pretty good schedule this year. Usually the last couple of years we were doing one or two events with Mosher, but this year we had four scheduled. We had some weddings that were rescheduled from 2020 during the pandemic, and they were finally able to pull them off this year. And yes, they were married before they got into the building. They just wanted to do it in front of people. And let's see, Library Society held a week of events in November. They worked out a verbal contract with the city that starting in 2025, they will have 2 weeks in the building in November. And we never, well, every once in a while we were able to give them 2 weeks, but because of Charleston Stage schedule, now they will have a permanent 2 weeks in the building. For 2023, once again, Spoleto plans a full schedule, 3 shows per day for 17 days, no breaks in between. Charleston Stage will move back into the building in July this year. They usually move in August, but they're adding more shows to their schedule. We're also planning to do a lighting conversion over the summer. We did a lighting conversion in the building, but not on stage. So we're going to do the lighting on stage during the summer. City Council approved that, so I'm sure you guys know all about that. And we're hoping to have a new operations manager on board by mid-February. The Maritime Center had a big freeze over the Christmas holiday. They had a couple of pipes burst and whatnot, and they're pretty much back up to capacity now. They're trying to get everything, everything is working at this point, but it's not up to where it should be. Let's see, they had a total of 363 registered boaters this year. The fuel sales was 52,800. Well, that's how many gallons of gas, but it came out to $493,000. Completed projects, they had a couple of film crews there. They had shootings for Outer Bank, Righteous Gems, Land's End Catalog, things like that throughout the year. They completed their license agreement with the Harbor Tours. They had a couple of tall ships in this year, the Roseway, the Harvey Gamage, the Liberty Clipper, and they are still among the top spot for transient boaters, pretty much because of cost. And they have an overlook of the historical downtown. The new thing they did this year was install safety ladders for the floating boats. We didn't have those before. They repaired some broken docks and pile guides. They revamped a whole lot of things on the floating dock. And anybody knows anything about water, things on the docks needs to be replaced and fixed like constantly because of the weather and conditions. The upcoming projects they have, they're updating all their power lines and conduits and power pedestals to both docks and the floating dock. They're working on some water and electrical service on the dock, damage due to the freezing. They had a pipe burst, even though that they left the water running. And they are set to aid the South Carolina Aquarium with any preparations for the renovations coming up next associated to their lease. And now we're going to move on to the Old Exchange. Their visitation was at 87,000 this year. And I believe that is up 4,000 or 5,000 from the year before. I'm sorry, my notes got a little jammed here. I believe this is last year. They had an elevator upgrade, and they had an annual reading of the Declaration of Independence on the front stamped by Washington Light Infantry. They had a couple of installations in place, and I apologize, I did have it in here, but somehow I deleted it. So they have some new visual things inside the actual building. And I wish I could tell you what they were and where they are, but I apologize. Some of the proposed projects are the installation of the Southern Campaign and Revolutionary War exhibit in the Isaac Haynes Room. That should take place in this year, 2023. They're also finishing up their HVAC upgrades. And they're going to complete the cupola column repair. And I'm almost sure that that's done, but maybe there's a couple of things to tie up.
I think you may have hit your mute button.
I mean, you got muted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you remember what the last thing you heard me say?
I think you need to go back to where you had just finished saying the HVAC upgrades and repairs, and right
Okay.
after that.
Thank you. I don't know how I hit that. Yeah, and the cupola repair column project should be wrapping up any day now. And then I went to the Old Slave Mart Museum. Their visitation is up to 89,000 this year, which is also about a $5,000 people increase from last year. I think all of the buildings did really well. And if anybody was downtown the week of Christmas, you know how many visitors we have. Just alone here in the Dock Street, we do anywhere from 300 to 1,000 visitors a day, and we did close to 2,000 every day that week during Christmas. I don't know what was happening, why all these people were here, and all of the buildings saw pretty much the same thing. So that's a great thing. So the boost really came around Christmas time for all of our buildings, which was great. The completed projects for the museum is they purchased and installed a couple of flat screens upstairs for the gallery. Excuse me. The South Carolina Department of Archives and History approved 2 state markers, one to be placed on Chalmers Street and one to be placed on Queen Street. They completed and installed a Southern Campaign exhibit over there. They hosted the Philadelphia 76ers NBA team along with Bernie Powers. A couple of months ago, they came. The team came and they visited a lot of places throughout the city, and luckily they came by the Slave Mart and had a private showing. 2023, the markers are set to be completed and installed. The 2 markers I just mentioned before, and then there was a study put on by the Charleston Police Department about the safety of the building. Apparently, there were some issues with people coming to the building and the staff not feeling secure. So the police department came up with some ideas, and they're going to study what they can implement and what they can do to make the building safer and to make everybody happy.
Romaine, you got muted again.
Thank you. I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not touching anything. The laptop's up here. The Angel Oak had a visitation of 4,200 people this year. And as you guys know, that tree just attracts people from all over, which is great. They always have a few visitor issues. We're working on those. They have increased the awareness of the oak by doing small lectures with schools and family groups just to give them the history and let them know about the history of the tree. And what they're working on for 2023 is continue to work on projects with the Preservation Trust, which includes parking improvements, signage, patrons flow, and all of these issues we were already working on before, but now it seems that the park might be expanded a little. So we're gonna make small improvements and see what goes on from there. And that's pretty much the end of my report.
All right, thank you very much, Romaine. And questions? Councilmember Saccharine?
Thank you, Chairman. Just one question, I guess, in terms of the numbers pre-COVID versus post-COVID. I think you had mentioned that there was a measurement of last year, but have you done any research regarding pre-COVID numbers versus post-COVID, and whether we're back to those numbers pre-COVID?
All of the buildings are exceeding the numbers pre-COVID. Everything went really, far down during COVID, but once since COVID was over, people have just been out and about, and all the buildings have seen a upswing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Romaine, what did you say the number was for the visitors for the Angel Oak?
421,000.
421. Okay, gotcha. Mayor Tecklenburg, do you have some questions?
Romaine, over at the Dock Street Theater, I seem to remember, and it might have been 4 years or so ago, 4 or 5 years ago, that we did an upgrade to some of the lighting over there. Am I remembering correct? Are you saying we need to do that again?
What we upgraded before was the lighting for the actual building. We didn't do anything to the stage, and that's what we're going to upgrade now.
Really?
Yeah, we
Okay.
didn't do anything to the stage lighting.
And the sound system, we didn't mess with that either?
No, we didn't mess with that either. And there's a lot of things going on with the sound and the FCC and how they change frequencies and whatnot. In about a year, our battery pack mics won't be usable because of the FCC frequencies. We operate on the 600,000 and they're phasing that out. So we're going to have to replace those two. We got that memo about 2 weeks ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and Romaine, that you said all of the lighting will be updated in the summer. Is that correct?
We're hoping for the summer, yes, because that's usually our downtime for the building.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on when we can get it all in, when we can get it up. With supply chain, we don't have a date for it yet.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Any other questions? And this is probably more of a question maybe for Matt, but how are we? I know obviously we're spending some money on some things to make improvements. How are we doing? As far as what we're bringing in and what we're spending right now on our special facilities.
So I think not surprising during COVID, we had some losses at our facilities. All of our facilities have historically performed very well, broken even or made a little bit of profit. And for that reason, we've been able to keep, obviously, admission to places free or very low. For the Old Slave Mart, for example, the museum. But as Romaine said, visitation has been very, very good this year. So even in places like the Angel Oak, where it's free admission, the gift shop, when those people come through the gates to see the tree, the gift shop does incredible sales. So like I said, all the facilities are doing very well for themselves. Obviously there is speaking of the Angel Oak specifically, with the project that's potentially on the horizon, there are obviously some concerns as we expand what is the park, the level of maintenance and care and staffing that may require. So we're working on kind of an analysis with the Preservation Trust to see what exactly those increasing costs may be and how we can work together to offset those. So that is one concern we do have for the future when it comes to the finances of one of our special facilities.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Matt. Councilmember Bowden.
Thank you. So you mentioned that we had a bunch of visitors during Christmas time. And I noticed that too. I think it was the most people I've seen on the streets since like Seawee way earlier in the year. Even like during the middle of the summer, it seemed like there were more people here. So do we have any idea like what that was? There some event in town that was driving that?
You're on mute, Romaine.
Most of the buildings we talked, we couldn't figure out what was going on. Usually like the tour groups that we have in, the big ones would do maybe 1 or 2 tours a day. But that week of Christmas, just for example, the two sisters, they're a pretty big group. They do, both of them do a tour a day and maybe 1 in the afternoon. But that week of Christmas, they were doing 4 tours a day, each of them. It was just, and people were on the streets and nobody could figure out why. I just don't know if people were traveling or what's the deal. And tour groups who usually do 1 a day, we saw them at least 2, sometimes 3 times. It was just amazing the tours we were doing. And usually that's our downtime because everybody's off on vacation. So it was kind of rough for us because there was only 2 people working the building. We didn't expect that.
Matt Froelich.
I think the one thing that I would add that I noticed leading up to Christmas that I haven't seen in years past was I felt like there was more promotion of Christmas type events coming out of the hotels, especially Charleston Place and Bennett. Those 2 hotels, I felt like there was a lot of Christmas programming promotion coming out of those. So I don't know if that was driving some of it, but that is one thing I noticed personally.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
So I was just thinking about the Slave Mart Museum and the opening of the IM this year. Kind of first logic is that it might take away visitors, but in fact, it might be that it adds to our visitors there, just with more folks coming through the city to come to a African American related museum. But I wondered, have we thought any about our presentation there, about you know, how it does it are they going to repeat some things over at the IM? Should we think about what they're doing and think about our displays and what we're presenting at that museum, or maybe not, but I'm just asking the question.
Romaine, do you want to answer that or you want me to?
I'll let you answer it.
So the old Slave Mart, or Ryan's Auction Mart, Mayor, as you know, that museum, they interpret a very specific place in a very specific period of time. That is their focus. They don't intend or have never really intended to branch out into the larger conversation. And obviously with the IM opening up, I don't see any reason why they would even do that. Like I said, they focus on that. It's I want to say a 6 to 8 year period. And we're always looking to do additional interpretation, but they focus their area to a very specific time. If anyone hasn't been there recently, we had a new model built that kind of lays out the entire area, which is the museum, the building today, but also some of the buildings that existed behind, which is currently a parking lot, and what that whole complex looked like at one time. So that's a good, I think, reference to what they interpret there and what they're going to continue to try to interpret as we move forward. I will say the Old Exchange Building, Old Slave Market, they sell a joint combination ticket. They also have an agreement with the Powder Magazine. A conversation we've had a little bit is approaching the IAM about potentially doing a joint ticket between those 2 facilities as well, the Old Slave Mart and the IAM.
That makes sense. Ought to try to do that. Good idea.
Anyone else? Well,
Anybody heard back from the Nature Conservancy about Johns Island and expansion of the Angel Oak Park?
We are working with legal on that agreement as we speak, Mayor.
Okay. Good.
Well, Romaine, thank you so much for a great report, very detailed and a lot of information. And thank you for putting that together for us. And again, welcome to this new position. And we're excited to have you in that position and look forward to meeting with you more in the future as well. So thank you so much for all that you're already doing and that I know that you're going to be doing. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, and you know, I know we did have one deferred item from the joint meeting with Recreation. We're going to call that meeting probably back together soon. So just want to ask you to just hang in there. We'll probably get that together and have another meeting real soon. Is there anything else to come before this committee? If not, thank you very much for being with us, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.